everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing some gardening and we're going to be doing some baking bread. I want to sit down and chat with you guys about some garden updates. You guys have been asking me, Lanka's decided that he's going to sit on my lap for this. So I just finished a harvest. I have a bunch of leafy greens, so all of this kale. I have some spinach in there, but just a little bit. I've got 2 strawberries here and 3 tomatoes, and we're going to be talking about tomatoes today. As always, before we get into the video, please take a moment to make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and that you have your notifications turned on. That's that bell button right next to the subscribe button, and you'll hit always on the notifications so that you never miss a new video from me. I want to start off today with talking about a question that I get from you guys a lot, and that is how I keep pests out of my garden. It's a given if you have a vegetable garden that you are going to see slugs, you might see caterpillars, you might see all sorts of different things depending on where in the world you live and what likes your garden. And what we can do is we can make a homemade pesticide, and that's what I have done, and my homemade pesticide has been working really well. You'll still see pests here and there, but with a homemade pesticide it will help a lot. For your homemade pesticide, you'll want to use a reusable spray bottle like this so you can continue to fill it back up. We're almost finished with ours, so I'm gonna have to make a new mix very soon. These bottles come in a set of 2. I will link these glass ones that I use in the description box for you guys. For your homemade pesticide, you will use 2 cups of water, 2/3 cup of vegetable oil, some red pepper. The hotter, the better. We made homemade chili flakes from our red peppers from the garden last spring, and we've just had it for a long time, so we just use those red chili flakes. And then lastly, you'll use 1 teaspoon of dish soap. Just make sure that your dish soap does not have bleach in it, obviously, because that can harm the leaves of your plants. And I soak it in the water and I allow it to soak overnight, and the next morning I go in and drain the entire formula. Really important note, do not leave the flakes in the formula that you add to the spray bottle because you will break your spray bottle. I know from experience, I broke a spray bottle because I still had some like chili flakes in the formula and I didn't even think about it. I started spraying it and nothing came out. So avoid the mistake that I made. Like most things, you want to test it out first, so I just took the pesticide and put it on a leaf one day to just make sure that everything was okay, because I don't know, maybe the dish soap that you're using or the vegetable oil has some type of chemical in it that's not going to work well with your plants. So just do a little test on one little area of your garden before you go in there and start spraying everything, just to be sure. The next mix that I want to talk to you guys about is baking soda and water. This is so super simple to do. You just add water to your spray bottle and then you add a teaspoon of baking soda. This is going to help your tomato plants if you see any black fungus or mold on the leaves or the stems. We started noticing this and we got really nervous because we love our tomatoes and we didn't want anything to happen to them. So we started doing some research, and so many different articles and so many different videos recommended to use baking soda and water. And so we did just that, and we put it all over our tomato after we removed all of the black leaves that we noticed. If you do start to notice this black substance on your tomato plants, feel free to cut those leaves right off. Don't be afraid, because it's better for your plant to remove those leaves. It's good to leave some for photosynthesis, but it's also really good to remove the sick leaves. We've moved it indoors because it's a lot cooler in here, and it also sounded like my neighbor was taking apart his house outside. Since we're on the topic of tomato plants, I want to talk about when the best time to harvest a tomato is. I noticed that a lot of you guys are growing tomato plants, which why would you not? Tomatoes are some of the best vegetables to grow. Notice how I said some of, because I can definitely not pick one vegetable that is the best, but tomatoes are definitely in my top 3 because we can use them for so many different things. They are juicy and beautiful and just so much fun to harvest. As you guys can see, there are cracks in every single one of these tomatoes, and that is because I waited too long to harvest these. I was waiting for these tomatoes to ripen on the vine. I was waiting for them to turn red, but then I realized once I noticed that they were cracked that I had this like moment of clarity, and I remembered last harvest season how I would harvest them earlier, like when they were like orange or yellow or just like a little bit of red on them, and they normally will ripen on your kitchen shelf. I just had an aha moment and I realized that from season to season I had forgotten how to harvest a tomato. But I wanted to share that with you guys because it's important to me that I'm sharing with you guys the things that I learned the hard way so that you don't have to experience them as well. Obviously, these tomatoes are perfectly fine and I will eat every last bit of them because that little crack's not gonna keep me away from eating these tomatoes. But, you know, it's nice to have a perfectly ripe tomato with no cracks. That looks gorgeous. And the way that you can do that is harvesting them earlier than this. Another extremely exciting garden update are these garden labels that I ordered from Etsy from a company called Naturally Crafty. The girl who made these little garden labels name is Natalie, and she has a small business that I found on Etsy, and right now is such a great time to be buying from small businesses. So I thought about maybe DIYing these myself, and then I realized that my handwriting is not this beautiful, so I wanted to let a professional do it. I will link the business in my description box if you guys are interested in this. They come in sets of 3, so I ordered 4 sets at first, and then today I actually ordered 2 more sets because we have a lot of vegetables out there and there's a lot of labeling to be done, but I wanted to start off like just knowing that I was going to love them before I went like full blown. But we have 12 labels out in the garden right now. We got zucchini, we got eggplant, we got jalapeno, we got squash, we got zucchini, we got all of the beautiful labels, and they just look so gorgeous out there. I love that they are black and white like this, and I really love the writing on here. One last update that I have for you guys, and I brought my fiance in to explain to you guys. We are very excited about it, and it might not be as exciting for people that don't have a vegetable garden, but we're gonna talk about mulch. And if you have a vegetable garden, you might have it, you might not, but
you need it.
You need it. So we just added cocoa mulch to our vegetable garden.
Not to be confused with cacao, which is poisonous for dogs. This is made from coconut husks, organic coconut husks, and it really helps keep the moisture in the soil. So when you water in the morning, the soil doesn't dry out from the strong sun in the afternoon. It's a really good way to keep your plants hydrated, not to mention it protects from pests and other little critters digging around in there, which we've had in our garden.
And it also prevents weed growth.
Yep. It's a really, really essential element for your at-home vegetable garden, and one that's really easy to overlook. We overlooked it for over a year.
Yeah, but now we realize how great it is, and it also looks beautiful because the cocoa mulch has like a red tint to it. Mm-hmm. Again, I just want to reiterate the fact that if you have a dog, please be careful about getting cacao mulch because that's the one that a lot of people use, and dogs have died from this. So just make sure that you're, making sure that you're getting cocoa mulch
from coconuts.
After a bit of gardening and giving you guys all of the garden updates, I decided to bake some bread. I recommended this book, Flour, Water, Salt, Yeast by Ken Forkish, many times now on Instagram, and I honestly can't recommend it enough. It has truly streamlined my bread baking, and I have truly been making loaves that feel like bakery quality. Ken Forkish teaches the reader the fundamentals of baking artisan bread. Simple ingredients, only using your hands to knead, fold, and shape the dough. It's the traditional French way to make bread, and it's such a fulfilling experience. I did have to invest in some equipment, but it's completely worth it. I don't think I'll be buying store-bought bread again. I bought a scale to weigh out my ingredients based on the recipe. I bought a thermometer because the water and flour need to be at a specific temperature. 2 proofing baskets because I often make 2 loaves at a time, and proofing baskets are pretty crucial. A jar to measure the water or flour, which is a jar that I just reuse consistently. The bread I'm baking today is from page 89 in the book. I measured my flour at 1,000 grams and added water at around 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 32 degrees Celsius in a 12-quart container, and then I let it rest for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then I added 22 grams of salt and 0.8 grams of yeast to the top of my mixture. I mixed it by hand and made sure to wet my working hand so that the dough wouldn't stick to me. I used the pincher method to integrate the ingredients. Ken Forkish goes into full details on how to do this in his book, which is why I highly recommend you get it if you'd like to try this out. I put a lid on the container and I let the dough rise for around 14 hours overnight while I slept. One thing that I do not claim to do is to keep the kitchen clean while I am cooking or baking. It's always a mess, but that's okay, right, Augie? He's like, yep, that's right, because I will just keep eating all of the things that you drop on the floor. That's his main goal in life. He's already looking at this flour. You cannot have that. We are snacking on the strawberries I harvested this morning. Uncle's like, what about me? The next morning when I woke up, I added flour to my workspace, I added flour to my hands, and to the corners of the container to gently remove my dough. I then cut the dough down the middle into 2 equal pieces. I dusted my 2 proofing baskets with flour and shaped each piece of dough into tight balls. I added the balls of dough into the proofing baskets and then I let them proof for about 1 hour. I preheated my oven to 475. I put my first loaf in my Dutch oven and then I let it cook with the top on for about 30 minutes. Then I removed the lid and I let it cook without the top on for about 20 minutes. Oh, baby. Yes. Gorgeous. Look at the bottom too. It turned out so perfect. And I allowed the loaf to sit for 20 minutes before slicing. And can I just tell you, the smell of fresh homemade bread is like nothing else. Absolutely my favorite smell on the planet. The butter just melts on this bread and I love having it simply like that. This day I decided to add some burrata and some tomatoes that we had from the garden. There is nothing like homemade bread with homegrown tomatoes on top, and I took some basil from the garden as well, and it was just absolutely delicious. So I totally encourage you guys to try baking your own bread if you haven't before. If you have, let me know in the comments below what type of bread you love cooking. Give me some recipe ideas if you have them. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you do make the homemade pesticide, please let me know on Instagram, send me pictures, let me know how it's going. And the same thing with the bread. If you end up trying baking your own bread at home, tag me on Instagram. I love seeing you guys recreate the things that I share with you. And I will see you guys very soon in a new video. I hope you are all well. Talk to you soon. Bye.